Okay. So you have been in this industry of psychometrics and psychology since 2004. So that's like almost 20 years now. And you have been like, I was like going through the experience that on LinkedIn, it's like you have done very different things. It's like wasting faculty, complete consultancy job. Like now you're like in a bank itself. Like, can you give us like a more in-depth, like your background, like exactly what you have done?
Yeah, actually, the way I put it is threefold. It's like, in one word, I apply psychology to business.
Okay.
And I apply psychology to basically solve business problems. And you know, businesses generally they face the problem of identifying people, like who is the most suitable for the job role. So I work with them to identify that. And it is known by the different names in the industry. Some people call it recruitment, some people call it talent identification, some people call it like talent acquisition, whatever they call it. You know, the function is that the core is that you need to know who is suitable, or what kind of people are more suitable for this role and that role and the other role and things like that. So that's the one thing, first thing, applying psychology to business. Second is that once people are in, you need to kind of develop them in the role. You need to prepare them for the next role.
Absolutely,
you need to have some kind of developmental path for people. Now, in organizational functioning, it is called, you know, the learning and development. Earlier, it was training and development, but then they started saying that, okay, training is for dogs, so let's call it learning rather than training. So it became like training and development. And then this whole word of HR was basically hijacked by another word called talent. So they started saying is talent development, succession planning, you know, career development and all those things. So that's the second part chunk. And the third is that while people are at work, what you can do to engage them. So all the culture building aspect, all the diversity and inclusion aspect, all the aspect of making your organization in such a way that it is fun to work, or if not fun, at least it is not, you know, toxic. So how to create a culture, how to create that kind of, how to promote that kind of culture. This is where also psychology plays a great role. So I have worked in all these three domains.
Okay, so
identifying and getting people, developing people, and engaging people, and creating the right kind of culture and environment. So this is what I have done in nutshell.
Yeah, it's like a very brief part that you have done in like almost 20 years now. So that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so like
within that, my core expertise is into measurement.
Measurement.
So,
okay, like psychometrics.
Yeah, I'm a measurement guy. So like you give me a characteristic, I have a scale for that. So if anything on which you can see that, okay, people are different. For example, people are different in skin color, right? And there is a scale for measuring skin color, right? But skin color is very visible thing.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same way, people are different in terms of their attitude towards, you know, the outside world. Some people are more positive towards it. Like if you ask a variety of people, okay, what do you think is going to happen? Just very general question. What do you think is going to happen? And you collect all the responses. You can easily see that responses represent a dichotomy or a continuum. And in that continuum, you will find some people who will say that everything is going to be good. Everything is going to be fine. We are going to live in a, you know, best possible world. Then there will be another group of people who would say that everything is going to be bad. Nothing, you know, more bad can happen. And it's like, we are going to live in a worst world possible. And then there are many responses in between. Now, psychologically, this is called optimism dimension. And it's an attitude, it's a personality trait and all. So I developed tests to measure that.
Okay,
so like actually, that, you take human characteristic, psychological characteristic, and I develop a test to measure that.
Yeah, so I think like when you ask like such kind of questions, so they're gonna people be like from the complete spectrum, like from the complete pessimist, like a person is like complete pessimist to like complete optimist person, as well as like then you're like opportunities, like realist, those kind of like other people in the spectrum as well.
Exactly.
So obviously the response of the people are gonna be very different. So how do you think like developing a single test? Do you think developing like a single or let's say couple of tests would help like differentiate or like recognize those kind of things? How does that work?
That's actually a very kind of important, and there could not be a straight response to that question. So I would try to give you an analogy.
Yeah, best. Yeah.
Whenever we measure something, we don't measure the thing. We never measure that. So when you
Okay.
talk about culture, you don't measure the culture. You measure some, even physical world. Take example of electricity. When you measure electricity, you're not measuring the electricity itself. You are measuring one dimension of that electricity. For example, current. Current is one dimension which tells that how strong it is. Then another dimension is resistance. Another dimension is the voltage, which is basically the distance between 2 points. So in the same way, when we are measuring personality or when we are measuring human characteristic, we are not measuring the person itself or the characteristic itself. We are measuring the visible, identifiable dimensions of that characteristics. And in that dimensionality, it is very well defined, it is very well clear, and it is very well measurable.
Okay. So
But
basically we are
never
measuring.
confuse that with the measurement of the person.
Yeah. Got it. So basically we are measuring certain traits and not like a complete personality. And as well as that traits on like a certain parameter itself, not like a everything basically. Like we are just giving psychometrics would give you like particular traits and particular parameters of a personality. If
So we are measuring certain defined trait within that definition. Like,
and I think
again,
even
if I
in a
take
very
example of electricity, there could be 100 ways of measuring electricity and knowing about electricity. But voltage, resistance, and current, these three are sufficient for most of our work. So in the same way, there could be 100 different things within personality. Personality traits and a list of big 5 traits, for example, that's sufficient for our understanding of people and predicting the behavior of people. So we measure only that.
Absolutely. Okay, so when we talk about business psychology, is it anything else as well? Let's say just the one is like obviously psychometrics one, where you like okay, let's talk about the second fold that we talked about, like optimizing the people that we work with. Like when you like obviously first one was like a second one we were like saying when we like hire people, after that like optimizing their like potential and like really sharpening them as like a pencil, we sharpen them to perform better at their roles. So can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, so in the sharpening part, what happens is that, and this is where all the concept from motivation, engagement, all that concept comes into learning. Like, let's say there is a whole debate about, is there something called learnability? Like, is it the case that some people are more prone to learn, and I'm using the word prone in lack of a better word, or let's say some people are more inclined to learn than other.
Yeah.
Is it there is something called learnability? And if there is something called learnability, is it property of a person himself? Like, are there some people who will learn no matter what? Or is it more situational, that people will be interested into learning one kind of thing more than the other?
Okay.
So am I as an individual a kind of person who will learn no matter what I'm learning? Or my learning interest and my learning ability will depend upon what I'm going to actually learn? And this is a big debate. So, and there are whole consulting groups and houses and researchers and all that, and they belong to kind of one of these two, let's say, brigade. One brigade says that, okay, there is something called learnability, so we can identify that learnability in people, and then we can promote those people who are more learnable to bigger responsibility, because they can learn faster and therefore they can deliver most. Remember, at the back of it is always the optimization logic.
Yeah, one thing.
Optimization means getting maximum from the minimum effort.
Yeah, that I got it. Okay, one thing that I need to confirm is one is learnability and one is like willing to learn. I think these kind of like two are like different things as well. So
yeah, and
I think these
in
are
willing
like
to learn also the same kind of logic. Are you willing to learn no matter what is the subject, or your willingness to learn depends upon the subject?
Okay. So
is a willingness to learn a universal concept, or it is a situational concept?
Okay. And so what's the basic conclusion that you can give on this topic? Like the learnability one, like what do you think would be like, is it like, is it a thing, or like how does it like go along with?
Actually, the psychology and science in psychology has not advanced to the level that we can give a definite conclusion. But one thing which I can say at this point in time, based on like the work that I have done and the studies that I have done, is that it is definitely not universal. Like there is no one who is, let's say, ever willing to learn everything. And those who say that I'm ever willing to learn everything, if you just ask them what have you learned in last 10 years, you will find that there is a little broader range of learning than the other. I have seen many people and surveyed many people who say in all the survey responses that, well, I'm always willing to learn anything. But if you look at it, what they have learned is very broader. It's not as broad as they think. And most of those people are basically social people. So what they think, their definition of everything is all that is social in psychology, like our day-to-day life, the political affair, current affairs, and things like that. If you start asking them questions about chemistry, they'll say, oh,
they're like, yeah. So
basically, physics.
So real learning is usually like a vague thing, that they're like the one, like basically a normal extrovert person would usually learn this. So it's like normal, or usually like a vague things, and that's like very day-to-day life learning, basically, not like a very specific hardcore learning. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. So what we have found is that there is nothing called universal in learning.
Yeah.
So there is nothing like a universal motivation to learn. There is nothing like a universal ability to learn. There is nothing like a universal tendency to learn. Some people have more varied interest, and some people have very narrow interest. And anybody and everybody, like most people, have the ability and motivation to learn. So a same person who is not interested in coding at all might be hugely interested in developing plants or gardening, for example.
For sure. So, okay, one thing, can a person learn
for organization, just to connect it with the organization, the implication for organization is that it is like if you are designing a learning program, first step is to identify, is it the kind of thing that we want people to learn in this company or in this organization? Are they universal in nature, or we have to do some kind of mix and match game that some people would be more inclined to learn those things than the other? And therefore, the first step would be to identify those people who would be interested in learning this thing at this point in time, because time is also another dimension.
Exactly.
At one point in time, I might be interested in learning something, and 2 years down the line, my interest might change totally to learn a different thing.
So, okay. So one thing I need to ask in this itself, like, can a person learn to learn, basically? Like, can a person develop an ability to learn? Is it?
Oh, yes, that is definitely, yeah. Learning to learn. And in fact, as per me, this is the purpose of education. The whole, like the crux of education is learning how to learn.
Okay.
And I remember that when I was doing my master's, there was one module on that. Learning how to learn. And recently, like I think around 4 or 5 years ago, I came, I was aware of a concept called a course in Coursera. It was on learning to learn.
Okay.
And I think it was one of the very popular courses on Coursera. And since then, I got interested into the idea of that, is it, like, let's say, possible to, increase,
develop an ability,
or let's say develop people's ability to learn? And the answer is definitely an emphatic yes. Yes, it is like a skill. It is like muscle building. Anybody can learn how to learn, and anybody can be good at that. But again, there are individual differences. Some people will even learn that faster than the other people.
Yeah, obviously. So any pointers that you would give, let's say, want to develop an ability to learn, any tips or let's say any guidance that you would give to anyone, like let's say me, like what I should do to develop this ability faster, or let's say develop this ability basically?
Actually, there is no shortcut. That's the thing. It's like not at all. Like there is no shortcut.
Gotcha.
Because the ability of learning to learn is based on certain pillars. One pillar is curiosity. Is the first pillar. Like one must have some sort of curiosity in that, like asking questions. And if you let's say observe children, they ask a lot of questions. And then as we grow up, we basically tend to ask less of questions. And those among us who still keep that ability to ask more questions, they go more into the academic side of life, and they become the knowledge creator, knowledge compiler, and knowledge distributors. So the first pillar, like how we can develop, is spend more time with those who are curious. So identify around your environment who are the people who are most curious, and it's very easy to identify that. Spend more time with that. By the virtue of spending more time, you will get some kind of influence of that, and you will become more curious. So that's the first thing. The second pillar of learning is, once you have the curiosity, you should have the ability to critically evaluate what information coming to you. And this is becoming even more difficult with the advent of this social media and the kind of because social media has large power to influence us without us knowing that we are being influenced. So critically evaluate, critically analyze, and that too, following the very basic logic, very basic thing of critical. Like for example, if you get a news, ask yourself, okay, who is propagating that news? Now, what is the assumption behind it, and what is the consequence of accepting it, and what are the alternatives on any situation? So developing that habit of asking critical questions, that's the second part of learning, important. And the third is basically expanding a logic and summarizing a logic. So let's say there is an idea of, let's say, for example, I have a hard disk. This is a very small hard disk, but it is like 8 terabytes. It's huge in terms of capacity. Now, if I look at this hard disk, is now 8 terabyte. Just 4 years ago, this big hard disk cannot have more than 250, at least the one which was available in the market.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are having reduced size, and there is a law about it. It's called law, but it's not really law. But yeah, which says basically that every 6 months you can put double the amount of number of compressors. Transistors in the same space.
Exactly.
No, they call it Moore's law. But it was not law; it's an observation that Moore did based on some.
We don't know like how scalable it would be for future part. But
exactly. Exactly. So it was an observation, and that observation holds true roughly at the same time. But then, there are many things, and let's not go into that. But taking that, for example, and seeing the implication of it in different fields than computer science. So that's like expanding. And then summarizing or narrowing is that you have plethora of information coming around you.
For sure.
What are the some 2-3 themes which are emerging? For example, in the current global scenario, we have lots of information coming from lot different sources. What are the 2, 3, 5 themes which are emerging? Developing that ability, expanding and summarizing, is a critical part of learning to learn.
Okay, so what I understood is like first was the being curious was the one. Second was like being. Second one was like
critical evaluation.
Like evaluating what kind of information that you are getting. And third was expanding your
ability to expand and summarize.
Yeah, exactly. Got it. Expanding and summarizing what information that you get. Okay, in this thing,
then there are some techniques. For example, the small techniques, like for example, speed reading. Though I never understand the logic of it, speed reading, because if you don't enjoy reading, why the hell even read? So what's the point of speed reading?
Gotcha.
It's like it's like asking to travelers that, hey, I will give you a device which will transport you from place 1 to place B in 2 seconds. And if you are a real traveler, you know that you will not get any joy from it, because the
Joy is
joy
in the
of
journey,
traveling is going through. It's not reaching.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss was like, he's like such a fast reader, speed reader. He's like usually completes a book in like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at tops. He's like zoom, 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 and he reads the complete book. Like he just like not just like go through the book. He's like, I know the gist of the book now. Now it's like I have the knowledge, or like I'm able to understand what the author was trying to convey. I know now. So good enough for me. But for the people who love the like speed reading, I think love the concept of reading. For them, I think speed reading is the like the worst thing that you can try to develop as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's say if I'm a researcher and I want to know, I have a, let's say I'm writing a paper, which I do sometimes. I write papers. Now I have 300 papers to read in order to find related information to my paper. Now speed reading here is very useful for me. Absolutely. Because I can quickly find out what is the relevant section and all that. But then if I'm really intelligent, I will not even use speed reading. I will use computer to read all that and give me exactly the statements which are of my interest. Gotcha. And GPT-3, the open source, the big artificial general intelligence machine is able to do that. So I would like, as a human being and as a person interested into technology, learning and all that, I would spend my time reading deeply and joyfully books on artificial intelligence, on how to make a machine to read 300 articles and get the gist of what I want, rather than training myself to read 300 articles and find it. Yeah. I think, but then it's an individual choice. Yeah, I think that is very handy for like people, like if a person is trying to do a research, I think that's a very handy tool that can be developed. But I think for some people it would be like, I have lost the love of research basically. Like that kind of thing does come into play. Like that was a part that I used to love, like reading research papers of different people, like and citing them and like using that part, not just reading the abstract of it, like reading the complete paper and learning more. So for some people, that is the part they actually love. And for some people, it's like learning exactly what the paper was about. That's it. Exactly. And that's why if you look at it, even in the research community, especially in social science research, the research has almost disappeared. It's more like production which is happening. And like nowadays machines are better capable of doing that than human beings. So for sure, I think, and it would be like a very time optimized task as well. Like if a machine can does like 300 research papers in like a 15 minutes of time, and like then I can like go through it like step by step by step. It's like like done deal. I wrote a whole term paper using GPT. Okay. The entire term paper, and it passed through the Turnitin in the university, and nobody could, even the evaluator could not identify that it was not written by me, it was written by machine. The whole term paper of for PhD, like coursework. So that's like it's like that's like a very gray area actually. Like a person hasn't even like done the research exactly, and even the paper has been written now. Exactly. That's like a gray area. And the paper was basically on the what has happened. It was a summary of all the researches in leadership done from 1901 to 2005. So that's like the whole term paper. And what I did basically, I supplied the machine some general ideas, and I supplied the machine some references. Just these are the ideas, these are the references, go and give me the paper. And it gave me beautifully written paper. Yeah, I think even such softwares are available online as well. You just like give them 3 to 4 keywords and then write the complete blog of it, like 2000-word blog. And it's like plagiarism free. It's like a paid tool. It's like you have to just pay like $1 or like for particular, like for single article, you have to pay $1 and you can get like
for one article, if you're paying $1, you can like pay $100. You get like 100 articles, and I don't think there's any content writer that would be willing to write at such a cheap cost, actually.
Yeah,
So-
no, not possible. Yeah,
That's
and
like a very-
all of them, actually, most of them, I think, I doubt that they use GPT-3 in the backend.
It's like a very
Yeah.
gray areas. Like
So again, and that brings us, back to the basic question: is that,
yeah,
like, let's say in terms of learning and in terms of, uh, development and reading, like, what is the purpose?
exactly.
If the purpose is to reach the destination fast, then of course you will use the tools, or you will invent tools, you will be attracted towards tool which will make you reach the destination fast.
Yeah.
But if the purpose is to enjoy the journey, then you will not be, paying, let's say, twice the fare to reach. You will take a slower vehicle. You will take a vehicle which is more comfortable.
Yeah.
You will take a vehicle which is more transparent, that you can see things
Exactly. Yeah.
nicely. You can
Like-
maybe, take a vehicle which we can give you the fragrance of the way. You will
Sure.
not focus on the speed much. And this part, differentiating, like, why we are doing it and what
Yeah,
is the purpose,
sure.
asking that question, differentiating, is the essence of learning. And this is the ability that you can develop, that anybody can develop.
Yeah, I think like even for the school time, like the people like who like going through school, like the children, basically, I think this is the one of the skills that needs to be developed in them. Like basically, like teaching them how to learn things, like learn things that they are actually good at, or let's say things that they want to learn. Like I think this is a skill set everyone should develop at a very young age, and then they can obviously like change domain, change industries at a very fast, like as per their taste or as per their industries evolve, so they can obviously like optimize it.
Exactly. And this is the best gift we can give to our, let's say, children. And this is the best gift we can give to our friends, for example. Discussing, talking about those aspects, asking those questions, talking about those things.
Okay.
And I think this is the purpose of education. Like this is what education is. It's not about memorizing some facts.
Yeah, exactly.
And knowing, Babur pehle aaya tha ki Akbar pehle aaya tha, and all those things. Like
these kind of things can be
important to know
Googled.
the facts. Yeah, it is important to know the facts, but the facts are not there, or the purpose of not knowing and memorizing fact, education does not end there.
Yeah, I think these kind of things are like very like Googleable. Like I can ask my Alexa,
yeah, exactly.
Kajal किसने बनाया था? So they can give an answer in like a fraction of a second. Like before I can type, they can tell it.
Yeah.
So like learning, like ability, like how to learn things, I think that's a very crucial aspect. I think. And is there any age group, for example, let's say minimum age that when can this skill be started, like can be developed, or let's say we can start developing that skill? Is there any age, like after the age of 5, age of 6, age of 7, age of 10? Is there any age?
That's actually like we have to go into two domains to understand this.
Okay.
Like, is there an optimal age of developing learning skills? And so there are, we can find this answer into two different domains.
Okay.
One is all the research which is happening into structure and function of brain. So there is a group of scientists, group of biologists, neuropsychologists. They are working on this, and there has been their opinion changes based on time. And this is the beauty of science, or this is one of the feature of science, is that science is always tentative. It is never deterministic. Science never says that, okay, this is the final thing. That's the job of religion, to say that this is the final thing. Science always saying that till at this point in time, till this point, we know this much. There are this area we are exploring right now, and the others we don't know.
Yeah.
This is how a true scientist will talk. So earlier, we used to believe that brain develops till the age of 25.
Okay.
And then after that, it declines. And by the time we reach like 80, 90, it's like almost dull. and then it dies when we die. So that was the thinking roughly around 1975, 1976. This is how it was. Then a new movement came, and which says that this is partially true. Actually, depending upon your lifestyle, the brain might develop up to the age of 40.
Okay.
And after that, a gradual decline starts.
Okay.
And then at that time, this also a new idea basically came, is that earlier they used to think that different part of brains are different parts of brain are responsible for different functioning. So we see from one part, we hear from another part, verbal information is stored somewhere else, visual memory is stored somewhere else, things like that. And there was compartmentalization of brain.
Yeah.
And this idea came up to like 55, 65, like that. Then this idea was replaced by another idea, is that those are not compartments, but fluid structures. So there is some change, like, and this thing was invented because one guy, he had an accident, and there was a rod from his eye piercing through the whole brain, and it went the other side. So they saved him somehow, but a part of brain was damaged. And because of that brain damage, he lost some functions, some memories and all. But then after some time, after a few years, he started recollecting those memories. So then scientists started thinking how to explain this. And only explanation which was feasible was that memory was not stored in one place.
Gotcha.
It was also simultaneously at some other place. And so then now the current understanding is that you don't have one brain. You have thousands of brains inside your brain.
It's like a blockchain. It's like a blockchain going in your brain. Yeah.
Yes. So it's now the biggest, easiest thing is blockchain.
Yeah.
So every block has, sizable number of information, and every block has what the previous block had.
Yeah. Just hold on a second.
Keeps on developing.
1 second. Like someone is like, my parents are calling me for like a couple of minutes now. Let me answer it. Yeah. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, please. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Actually, I use my camera as like my smartphone actually. So that's why.
No issues. Yeah. So modern understanding of human brain is that it is not one, it's not like a building with compartments and rooms and places. It is a fluid structure which responds to the changes in the environment. And this theory is better able to explain why in 1940s studies and 1930s studies, we used to get the findings that brain develops up to 20, brain develops up to 25. It is not because brain develops like that. It is because the environment was structured like that the opportunities for development of brain existed only till the age of 25.
Okay.
So like people used to stop reading.
Learning system was developed in such a way that it was just only till 20 years of old, 20 years of age.
Because people used to go to the school, learn, interact, talk, this and that, and then they used to go to a job. In the job, they don't used to learn anything new. They used to do one kind of work till they retire. And after retired, they stopped doing even that kind of work, and they used to just eat, sleep, and die. So this was the environment.
Gotcha.
Then the environment changed a little. Because environment changed, the brain responded to that change in the environment. And now there were opportunities to learn, develop, change better. And currently, today, in today's world, the environment has changed even more.
Exactly. Yeah,
so for sure. Our brain has responded to that. And now it is much more flexible. Like, for example, now any serious scientist studying in the brain does not believe that brain has a fixed structure or a fixed function. It's largely centered function, but then if environment changes, or if there is a need, it will change. And this gives very big insight into the learning,
This is
that
yeah, for sure.
if one practices to learn a particular thing, with time, not only that the person will become master, but the brain will structure itself in such a manner that the person will have some kind of natural ability to learn it. Because what we call as natural ability is basically something for which the brain is more responsive. Like some people learn music faster, other people will take a lot of time.
100%. See, for my example as well, like I have like played sports since like very young age. So give me any sport, I can like, I'll be like very decent, better than average in like just couple of tries. Like give me like 3 to 4 weeks of it, I'll be like better than most of the average player who have been like pursuing any sport since for like 6 months, like a year,
Exactly.
even a year.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think muscle memory and those kind of things does a brain is developing, like what you exactly said, like a brain has repositioned itself to like develop that kind of particular skill. And I think there's like one theory that I read was like 10,000 hours of learning basically. So they were like, give any skill that for 10,000 hours and you'll be better than the most of the like 90% of the population who has done that.
And this is where I say the critical thinking part. I'm glad that you asked this question. You basically talked about this thing, because in the original study, what it was about, it was not about how much time it takes to learn something. No.
Okay.
It was a survey.
Yeah.
And the survey was asking people how much time it took you to go from, let's say, an average person to be good at it.
Yeah.
So that was the question. And then it was twisted by media houses that this is the time that it takes, and that 10,000 hour in the study there is no mention of 10,000 hours.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, not at all. This 10,000 hour was invented by a journalist to make it little more sensational, make it little more nice.
Yeah, make it like more quantifiable.
Yeah, exactly. So the average was somewhere close to 10,000 hours in the study. Obviously, but then the whole study was not about how much time it takes to learn something, but how much time it took you to learn that.
Yeah, from
which is
like
different.
Yeah, like developing a skill from like a amateur to like a decently good person. That was a study about.
Yeah. So now, like again, if we look at the progress in the brain, progress in understanding of the brain, because till now our understanding about the brain is very, very limited, because less than, I think, I don't know what is 100% in the brain, but if I make an estimate, I think we are just, and when I say we, means the scientific community is just touching the surface of it. It is still, there is a lot about the brain which is not yet explored and examined. So I'll give you one case which happened. It was basically, there was a company saying that we have developed artificial limb. So it was having, basically taking the sensor, the person was not having hand, so they will put a plastic hand and a robotic hand basically. Yeah. And the robotic hand will take the senses from there, and then it will it can move, and it has something like 100 and something movements, and gripping and all that, which it can do. And the company put as a proof of goodness of its product and how fast people were actually able to demonstrate that move. And then there is a group of scientists, they re-examined the data, and they said that, well, it is happening true, but it is not happening because of the machine is good. It is because the brain is adapting to send the right kind of signal to the machine. Okay. So it's not that the artificial intelligence software is learning how to interpret the brain signal, but the brain is learning how to send the signal to that bloody software, which will do the job properly.
And with time, it would like get better and better. Like just even without any software upgrade, your brain will get better at it, and that product would actually get better. Like your compatibility with the product will get better.
And just few days ago, I saw a video, is that a person was put, just an artificial hand close to this hand, and this hand was put little away,
Mm-hmm.
and they were touching
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the plastic hand, which was not having any signal at all,
yeah.
and then the sensation was felt here on these fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
So-
what they did was
so-
like hide one hand, like they put it like
Mm.
they did like feather, like they did like a feather sensation,
Yes,
and then they
yes.
like smashed like a hammer on it. That I've seen the video,
Mm.
like this smashed a hammer in,
Yeah.
and they can like almost
Yeah.
feel the pain even on the
Yeah.
like plastic or rubber
Yeah,
hand.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an inorganic plastic hand.
yeah,
So this basically demonstrates how attentive and how tuned
yeah.
our brain is to our environment.
Yeah, like how quickly
So-
it thought that it was its hand, and even the rubber hand was the part of a body. Like how quickly it
Yeah.
started to like believe.
Yeah. So the implication for learning from these studies and this knowledge is that if we can, like, anybody can learn anything that they
Mhm.
can put their attention and their passion into it.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, it has to be structured at environment level. Like it cannot be like, it does not mean that everybody can be anything.
Yeah,
It means that anybody can be anything means, if you are, let's say, focusing your attention and passion into one area, you have to make a choice that you are not doing other areas. So the time I'm spending in learning coding, at that time I'm not learning music.
yeah.
So expecting to kind of be better at everything is basically being not good at anything.
Yeah, like you can be good at anything, but you cannot be good at everything. That's like
Exactly.
we can like put
And
it
you
in that
have
way.
to consciously choose and sacrifice, and the better and clearer you choose, the better your brain will adapt to that, and therefore it will come naturally to you.
Yeah, obviously there would be like, if you like choose a particular skill, there would be like good and like a bad, like a good and bad consequences, and you'll have to accept those like both the consequences either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where I don't agree with our friends in positive psychology who say that, okay, well, if you put your mind into anything, you can be anything. No, it doesn't work like that.
You can be like a
Just
better
because-
version of
yeah.
better version of you at that particular skill set, but you obviously cannot. Like for let's say, for example, let's talk about me. Let's say if I start playing basketball for every day, for let's say let's say I give like 10,000 hours, hypothetical thing. I give 10,000 hours, I will be like a very good basketball player. I would be like best, I think, what I am. But obviously, when you compare me to Michael Jordan, like Kobe Bryant, those kind of people, obviously I won't be at that level. So
Exactly.
you will become like a better version, like a best version of yourself. But obviously, on like a broader level, you might not be like the best in the world, those kind of things.
Yeah, and at the same time, when you are going into basketball, at the same time you cannot be a good programmer also.
Exactly. Yeah.
So and this is the kind of unrealistic and unscientific propaganda. We need to, like, as part of learning how to learn, we need to have the skill and the sense to differentiate between these two. Is that, well, the study started with something to find out what it took for people who were successful in that line as an effort, as time to do. Then journalists twisted it that you can learn anything if you put 10,000 hours. And that communication, like if you look at communication wise, it is very effective. Rather than telling people that, look, 5,000 people in different areas, and this is roughly generally the finding, people will get bored and say, like, who is going to put effort to understand the finding? Same study, you come and say that, hey, 10,000 hours, you put in anything, you will be an expert. People say, yay.
Yeah, it's like
Because-
when you give them a number, so they're like more like, okay, this is it. This is I have to do it. So I'll be like good at it if I just put this time of like hours a day, let's say 6 hours a day, 8 hours, 16 hours a day. In these many years, I'll be like good at it. That's it.
Yeah. And the same happened with this other phenomenon, 80-20 rule. And it has become so
Yeah.
popular that people now just made up the number. 80% of the time this happens,
Yeah,
20% of the time.
that's a very absurd thing. Obviously, it's like a
Yeah.
generic portrait. Like this is like usually what happens. Obviously, it won't be like, it can be 70-30, it can be 60-40. Obviously, and I agree with that. Like Pareto's principle one. Like that's like a very
Yeah. So
renowned phenomenon. Yeah.
yeah, and scientifically, I put it like this: a study which was done as descriptive study to describe something, how something happened. Media took it and put it as a prescriptive study to prescribe on how something should happen.
That's
Like 80-20 was to describe how something has happened.
Yeah.
It was not to prescribe that this is how things should happen or this is how things are going to happen in future.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was basically kind of most of the research are usually an observation, not this is how it will be done or this is how it is going to be. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's
nice. And this same fallacy happens with the market. Like you must have seen that when the share market goes up, you will have a lot of experts who will say, and that, look, I predicted that.
Yeah.
Suddenly they will pop up from nowhere. And there is a huge thing. And then everybody will talk that, okay, you put in more money in this share. Look, in the last 3 years, this share has gone from 300 to 9,000. So there is 30 times growth. And there will be whole theory and hype and everything about it. And if you fall to that hype, which many people do, it is sure that you are going to lose your money.
For sure. This is for sure. I agree with it. Like these so-called experts that do emerge when from so-called experts that do emerge, and they are like, "Hame follow karo and we'll make you money and we like the fund manager," those kind of things. Trusting, following them is like a very bad thing.
And there is a common sense that people ignore there, is that if someone has key to double the money every 6 months, why that person will be running a 500 rupee course to teach it to others rather than using that technique?
Yeah, that's like a very blunt way to put it, for sure. And that's like the most realist thing that can be said, for sure.
Yeah. If I really have that key to double the money every 6 months or every even 3 years, I will just go to the bank and take as much loan as I can, and I will double it.
100%. Give me a loan at whatever percent, 10%, 12%, 20%, I'm good. Give it to me. I'll double it.
Yeah. And banks will happily give you.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're going to repay the loan in a year itself.
Yeah. And once you have a good repay record,
you can
a person like me, any bank is willing to give 1 crore rupees without any guarantee. They can give.
Yeah.
So if I really know that, I will just take that money and double it, rather than spending my 30 hours creating a course and then marketing that course to sell it for 5,000 or 500 rupees to 2,000 people, expecting that I will get 50 lakhs from that.
And why do you want to and why do you want to teach that thing? If you can double the money, why do you want to teach it? Just take the money, double it, and give it back to investors. You can follow that part itself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's like a very weird thing, for sure.
And these are all things, they work on the basic fallacy that we have, is that it is easier to look back at things and find patterns in that and explain why it happened, how it happened, and all that. And it's very difficult to actually say something about what is going to happen even tomorrow. Forget about distant future, even tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that the people who take the prediction from, let's say, day before yesterday till yesterday, and assume that it is going into the future, without taking care of the forces and conditions of the environment, they are, I would say, bad learners, because they are not taking the learning in the sense of learning. They are just ignoring the huge impact of the environmental forces on those variables that is being shown in that chart, and assuming that it is going to go like that in future.
For sure. When you look, we talk about learning, can like certain skills like decision making, those kind of skills can be learned as well. Like when you like when you look towards like a CEO or like a leader of a company, I usually think they are like a very good decision makers. That's why they are there, and like that's how they can lead a company. So can such kind of skills be learned as well?
See, as far as skill is concerned, like we make decision all the time. So we
Yeah.
are all decision makers. Now, what differentiates between a good decision and the bad decision? If I look at it, that there is no like good and bad decision. There is informed decision and there is less informed decision, more informed decision
Yeah.
and less informed decision. That the decision that you make with a lot of information, a lot of surety, and the decisions that you make with very less information, very less certainty. And those who are making good decisions consistently, they can be classified into two groups.
Okay.
One is that those who can replicate it in multiple situations. So like they say that this is what I'm going to do, and they do it. I would term those people like the serial entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
For example, they know how to start a company. They go and they come back and they again start from zero. They go and come back and again start from zero. And because they know it, they know how to do it, and they are very much comfortable with making decision with less of information.
Yeah.
And then there is another lot in that, which is basically they are reinterpreting their luck based on the information that like they are reinterpreting their luck as success. So for example, and it happens a lot in investing market.
Yeah.
So, and in order to let's say illustrate it, you can do an experiment, and I have done it. So
Okay.
what I did basically, I took, let's say start with a bunch of 100 people. Okay.
Yeah.
And say that you are going to flip a coin, and then those who get head, they will get 50 rupees as a reward.
Okay.
And those who get tail, they will get 25 rupees as a reward. So 100 people, you flip the coin. Now, in the first lot, you will have roughly 50 people who will be getting head and 50 people who will be getting tail.
Yeah.
Then you take only those people who got a head and move them to the next round.
Yeah.
You do it again. Next time 25, next time 12, next time 6, next time 3. Now you have, say, like 3 people who got consistently 7 head.
Yeah.
Now, if you calculate the probability of getting consistently 7 head, that will be like 0.5 multiplied by 0.5 multiplied by 0.5.
For 7 times.
Yeah. It will be like very, very minuscule. But in reality, what had happened? Out of 100 people, 3 are there. And now those 3 will become investment gurus. They will say that, look, 7 years consistently, my strategy has performed well. So there is also a big luck factor.
Yeah, this is why this is why I think Warren Buffett was like, invest in index funds. You don't have to be influenced by other people. Just keep investing in index funds. You'll be more like your investments will be better over the years for sure than any other actively management.
Active investor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think
because that's how it happens. Yeah, it's a game of chance. So the better decision makers are those who understand the game of the chance and play this game, knowing that they are playing this game and they are not doing it in the sense that they are not influencing the market, but they are taking the risk and they are open to, and in terms of investing, it is like this. They always focus on minimizing the loss than maximizing the gain, because maximizing the gain will happen anyway.
Yeah.
If you focus on minimizing the loss, there are chances that you will survive, and those who survive, they will be winner anyway.
That's a very well put actually. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in the decision making, some people are like very slow decision makers. Like either they're like
Oh yeah.
informative one, like they're like gathering information, like risk management, those kind of things. They're like analyzing a lot of things, and some people are like done. Like, if example,
Yeah, this is a
if I'm like
personality
recruiting
thing.
people, I'm like done.
Yeah.
This guy looks good, done. How does that
This
go?
is a personality thing. There is some kind of certain people, like it's a personality trait. Like decisiveness is a personality trait. And now it is influenced by multiple other personality traits. For example, there are some people who are more confident of themselves. There are some people who are average in confidence of themselves, and there are some people who are low. The best decision makers are decision makers who make more informed decision, and who are more knowing that I am making this decision with less number of information or less amount of information that I would ideally like to have.
Yeah.
So this is what we call good decision makers. They are generally in the average range of that self-confidence. Then there is another dimension of the intuitive. There are some people who get the environment, who perceive the environment as complete picture. They don't
Okay.
perceive the environment as small detail. And those people you can identify very quickly by asking them to describe a route. So let's say you
Okay.
ask them to describe a familiar route. They go from their home to office every day. You ask them to describe, okay, when you go from your home to office, what do you see? And those who describe it in terms of big, lamp post, signpost, and more like a jungle or like a forest, rather than describing each and every detail, they are mostly intuitive thinkers.
They are
And
mostly
those who describe it in intuitive.
okay,
thinkers.
intuitive. Oh, got it. Yeah.
And those who describe it as like a Google map instruction, that you go straight and approximately 200 meters you turn right, and then after 3 blocks you turn left, like that, they are the ones which are sensing thinkers. Means they are detailed oriental, detail conscious thinkers.
Okay.
Generally, those who are intuitive thinkers, they make better decisions.
Okay.
Because they have this ability to fill the gap, and the existence of the gap doesn't bother them, so they make decision a little faster. Now, if you have intuitive thinking and high self-confidence, that will go into very bad direction, because then you will
that
be
even
a
sounds like bad. Yeah.
impulsive decision maker, and
Yeah.
you will lose everything. Right? Like those are people who lose big time, are like that. High confidence, high intuitive thinking. Those who have average confidence and intuitive thinking, they are the ones who make as informed decisions, more informed decisions, and they know that when there is a gap, they know that there is gap, and therefore they are generally better decision makers.
Yeah.
And those who have high sensing and low level of confidence, these are the people who always procrastinate and take too much time and always
overthink.
Oh yes, there is a personality pattern into that. Yeah.
Okay, I was like having a word.
Personality.
Yeah, in a few episodes ago, like I was having a word with Dr. Shilpa Dattar, if you know who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was like, a personality of a person does not evolve with time. It can be like, we can always like optimize it, but personality of like core personality of a person is usually the same. So I think, yeah, obviously decision making is something like that as well. Like this intuitiveness, being confidence, I don't think it can be like developed like a lot. It can be like evolved like to a very high level. Obviously we can optimize it as like a certain like basic minus, like certain steps obviously, but not to like a very like completely contrast, like drastic change. I don't think it can be made then.
So it is again like this. It depends upon where you are looking at it. If you are looking at a child, anything can be developed. Anything can be developed in any direction. If you are looking at a child, if you are looking at an adult, some things can be developed, but still large. If you are looking at a 55-year-old person, very few things can be developed.
Yeah, I
Again,
think, yeah.
if you are looking
Then
at a group,
bias, yeah, and then bias
and
opinions are like so strong in them that they are not willing to learn, or let's say their learning ability has like
no,
depleted over the
there are
time.
many factors, like, and also there is another aspect of it. If you are looking at a group of young kids, a
Hmm.
group of young kids, almost everything is open to possibilities. If you
Yeah.
are looking at a group of adults, then lesser possibilities are there. If you are looking at a group of older people, there are lesser possibilities out there. In comparison to a group of an individual old person and a group of older people, in individual old person, there are more possibilities than in a group of older people.
Mhm.
So let's say it is possible that one individual old person becomes very agile in the body. So the person was having rigid stiff body, and now the person at 80 and now at 90 the person is very flexible. It is possible, one individual person.
Yeah.
But it is almost impossible to have a whole community of oldies of 80s having a stiff body, and they all have now flexible body in their 90s.
That's a
And
nice analogy. Yeah, I understood. Yeah.
yeah, so
Okay, I
so
think.
when we look at findings and findings from the science, we
Mhm.
have to always put those two lenses, like what age group we are talking about, what is the environment. The way I put it is that what situation,
Yeah,
and then are we looking at an individual, one person, or are we talking about a group?
I
Because
think,
group
yeah,
behavior is very different from individual behavior.
for sure. I think the people usually like miss the concept of this, like exactly this part. Like they usually research, like read the research paper's headline. Example, let's say,
Mhm.
Alzheimer at the you start have like symptoms of Alzheimer at the age of 45. Like start a hypothetical thing, but
Mhm.
the sample, like the sample they took, and the example can be like the age group that they took was like just in USA, North America, where the sunlight was less. Like the
Mhm.
particular sample of the people they took, they usually
Exactly. Yeah.
completely miss
and
that
and
part.
especially the lifestyle, that's the biggest thing they ignore.
100%,
The
100%.
lifestyle. Yeah. Like
Like
what
if you,
else you will get if you don't have anything else to do? You will, like, what that memory, like, your brain is not stupid. Your brain knows that if memory is of no use now, why to
100%.
keep that thing, thing consuming energy all the time? Why not
Exactly
just
like
drop it?
muscles, yeah. Exactly like muscles, like
Yeah,
the muscle. If
exactly.
you do not
Yeah.
use your muscles, you will have
Hmm.
atrophy, and like the muscles will like deplete in size and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Same, I think
and
same
and
goes with
look
the
at,
muscle
as a
brain volume.
generation, how much we need memory. Like, look at our generation, how much we need memory. So there will be no surprise that most of us in their 90s, they will not have memory,
Yeah, I think that's
and they
where
will have
my
Alzheimer. Yeah.
and yeah, I think I would love to play. Like, I was like reading a research paper like a few weeks ago. So they were like people who are like playing more like hand-eye coordination
Mhm.
sports like badminton, table tennis, lawn tennis, basically racket
Mhm.
sports. So they
Mhm.
usually don't develop, or let's say have a lesser symptoms of Alzheimer with age, like
Mhm.
age
Mhm.
pursue. So I think I would keep pursuing my
Yeah,
love for the sports,
exactly.
like stay away from
Yeah.
that.
In fact, having an active body
Mm-hmm.
is the biggest antidote for all the health problems. Like, if you really want to be healthy at 90, make sure that you are doing some sports, not like, extreme sport, but some sports at the age of 60, 70, and 80. If you are doing like that, well, you will have a fitter and agile body in 90s.
Yeah, if you like
uh,
take my example of my father, he's like 50. I think he's like around 55. So he's not like very
hmm,
old. He
hmm,
you almost every day he's going in the morning, like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. He's going for badminton or cricket. I don't know what's
hmm.
gotten him gotten into him like lately, in like last 6, 7, like around year. Now he's like playing
Yeah.
badminton and cricket like almost every day, and he's gotten fit, and he's like feeling feeling energetic. And I think it's good for him as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
it's like great for like even the like mind development, and being active obviously would help you like in your like every day-to-day activity. Your brain works better, you feel better, you eat better, and a nice like
Yeah.
circadian rhythm would be maintained obviously. So those kind of things do
Hmm.
add up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the bottom line of this is that And again, based on the what we know till now about brain is
Yeah,
that
till now, yeah.
it will develop. First of all, it develops lifelong, and secondly, it will develop in the direction of your life choices.
Mm-hmm.
So if your life choice is to be of an active person, your brain will develop like an active person. If your life choice is that you are going to use your brain to conduct scientific research, you will have a researcher's brain when you are 90. But
Okay.
if your life choice is that okay, at 70 I'm retiring, and after that all I will do is to read newspaper and curse the government and young generation, then your brain will adapt to
Oh,
that.
sure.
It will, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of finding in terms of learning and in terms of brain as of we know.
Yeah, I
And
think
there is a
like
very
this is like very
interesting
nice
book
thing that you
called
are doing.
Thousand's
Yeah.
Brain.
Like you are like keep mentioning like till now. Like you're like we are like sticking to the point that we discussed on the I think the first 10 minutes, like till now, this is what the study has been. This is what has been observed. After let's say 5 years, the research might be completely contrast, or let's say it on add like research keeps adding
That
on to
could be
it and
a better theory which will explain everything. Because
absolutely,
in
yeah.
the beginning, for brain, for example, people were saying that okay, if we understand, let's say, if we say that brain is neuroplastic, means it stretches, it is not fixed. How will you explain the findings of 1930s, which were showing that the brain has compartment? But they also found, followed scientific method.
Hmm.
You also followed scientific method. So then what happened with the 1930s theory? You cannot explain today's idea. With today's idea, you cannot explain that thing. With the idea of neuroplasticity, you cannot explain the logic, the observation of compartmentalization of brain, which was also a reality at that time. But when you found a third model, which is basically the brain adapts to the environment and to your life choices, then you can explain both.
Yeah.
And this
So
is how science progress. So maybe tomorrow there will be some other idea or some other model which is better at explaining today's reality, 1950s reality, 1930, or maybe before that.
so I think would you like say something example when I'm hypothetical, let's say if I write a research, I like go towards a research paper, like writing a research paper, like not to refer research paper who that are like very old, or let's say after like let's say 10 years or like 15 years down the line, not to like go beyond that. Would you like recommend to the people who are like doing research right now?
Yeah, this trend actually comes from social psychology. This was
Mm-hmm.
that refer to the latest, and there is a logic behind it. Refer to the latest is that the farther you go in that, the more you will find some random pattern, but they will make sense to you,
Yeah.
because we as a human being, we have this whole bias towards making sense. Some things just happen, like they don't have any sense, they just happen, but we cannot accept that. We need to find a sense into it. Like I remember George Bernard Shaw, he wrote
Okay.
Old Man and the Sea. And despite that author screaming his lungs out saying that there is no symbolism in that, old man is the old man and the sea is the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Old man is not representative, not a symbol of anything. Sea is not a symbol of unconscious mind or human desires. It is just the sea. Nobody accepted him. The author himself saying that it's not symbolism,
Mm.
but because in the air of that time, it was that impressionistic art, and then the whole symbolism was in the air. So everybody said that he must have been talking something deeper than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
point here is that human brain, like the way our tendency is that we need to find pattern. We need to look at, and that's why I think there is a convention and agreement in the scientific community is that when you are writing an academic article, you will not go too much back, because that would be basically reinventing. But then there is always demand from a new theory or a new model to be accepted as a valid model, only if it can explain a larger phenomenon than the older model has explained.
Got it. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's like, this is like my 6th or 7th grade science when they were like teaching me about the new electron model. They were like, this is why the previous model was flawed. And this is why this model is new acceptable. And then there was another model who was like, this is why the previous, all the models were flawed. This is the one that's more acceptable now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
this is
the
like,
model which can explain more observations, more phenomena is a better model than which can explain lesser. And therefore, we don't know whether the model that we have currently is the best model or there would be something better than that.
I think that would be always there. Like there will always be like a better justification or like a better like way to put that theory in the future as well.
Yeah.
May it be like, it can be like as basic like any like astrophysics theory, any space theory, or like even psychological theory, or like, I think the example we are talking about a lot, like we were talking a lot about brain itself. So it can be any research about brain itself. So there would be always be a paper that explains it in a better way with time, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So when we like talk about
and that's the difference between science and dogma, is that science is always open to that possibility. And it is the crux of flourishing the science. Dogma will always try to close that possibility. Like there cannot be, like how can anybody be better than Shiva, or how can anybody be better than Allah, or how can anybody be better than Krishna? Krishna was the final thing. Like, and this is where it becomes, it's beautiful in its own limited way.
Exactly.
So for example, in a small group, being Krishna devotee is an amazing experience. In a small group, being let's say 5 times namaji is an absolutely loving experience. Imposing it on the whole world is 100%. When the
that's like
bad thing starts. Yeah,
I think this is what I've like faced recently. Like one of my friends, colleagues in my office, she's like a full Krishna devotee. She's like from ISKCON and everything. She's like a full Krishna devotee, and for her is like what we talked about, like 10,000 hour theory itself. Like she is so devoted to that part. She doesn't know anything about the real, like the scientific world. Like, so she doesn't know what like solar system, like much about solar system, why Earth is round, why like planets are revolving around the sun. Like she has no clue. For her is like Krishna is doing that thing. So I cannot impose her like this is how the science works. So she's not willing to learn that part as well, and she's like focused towards just that part in her life. So obviously
from that I remember a very interesting thing. I was living in Riyadh. It was like 7 years ago. I invited my father-in-law, who is a scientist, and he is a theoretical physicist. And in Riyadh, there are very few places to visit. So I took him to the Science Museum of Riyadh.
Okay.
And it's an amazing museum, and they have multiple sections and all that. And at one place, there was a demonstration of how the world developed.
Okay.
So when he reached there, he started laughing. I said, why? He said, like, look at this thing. It explains everything very well, except the fact that Allah made the world in 7 days. And he said, like, how can you be a scientist and you believe in that? Because your idea of day should be different. Or, so after that point, after Allah made the world in 7 days, everything else was scientific.
Yeah.
It was displayed there that this is how Earth evolved.
Yeah,
this
like
is
Big
how
Bang, everything
happened and all that.
Yeah.
So they just took this whole idea from the West, but they added it before that Allah made all this in 7 days.
Like even in the Bible, hence the Earth was created, heaven and skies were created, those kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I don't think
you cannot believe in evolution. Let's say you cannot let's say propagate evolution as a logical explanation or as a plausible explanation of the world and development of cosmos, and at the same time believe in that.
Yeah, I think that's where like science, like you cannot be like a very, very, very religious person and be a good scientist as well. I think that part won't be able to like that won't go hand in hand for majority of the people.
Yeah, exactly. And in small, let's say, science can accommodate that, in the sense that a scientist can accommodate religion in itself. So it is possible for a scientist to be a religious person
Yeah, 100%.
for a small amount of time in a small amount of thing. And there has been many examples. But it will not be possible for a religious person to be scientist, because it will go against.
Yeah, because
Science
like,
can accommodate
even,
that.
yeah, even yesterday I was trying to explain her like almost like everything is made of same like electrons, protons, everything like from your skin, hair, rock, like this pole in the metro, everything is made from the electrons and protons. That's it. She was not like she could not comprehend that. So I was like I like stopped explaining to her. Like I was like, bas, और नहीं करना चाहिए. Else she's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like a very different topic for sure. Like science and religion like going hand in hand is like a very different thing, and debate can go like, if you like stand like a very like a pandit very super religious person and like a super like a realistic person, like example, even like Jordan Peterson, like those kind of people like who are into religious but are like a very realistic people as well, who are like a very big believer of science as well. So that debate can go on for like hours, years, like millennials for sure.
He's an example of of what I was saying, that the science can always
100%,
accommodate religion.
Yeah.
It is difficult for religion to accommodate science.
Yeah.
Like those who don't know science and who are religious in nature, they cannot accommodate.
I think those kind of people are also important, but if everyone is like that, then
Exactly.
it's like a doom.
Yeah. If they are like an island in the sea, beautiful.
Yeah, 100%.
But if they are the sea, or they are the whole earth, it
then
will be hell to live.
Yeah, I think like too much of anything is bad. That's the conclusion for that part itself. So let's going back to the decision one. Let's get back to the decision making. What about the let's say if a person's decisions are also dictated a lot by cognitive, like whatever cognitive triggers are there. Like example, it can be endowment effect. It can be like a normal, like there are like thousands of effects out there that does influence a person.
We have a lot of cognitive biases at play when we make decisions. A lot.
So what's your take on it? Example, let's say, does like how if a person is like a, let's say I'm like a very fast or like a decently fast decision maker, after let's say analyzing things, I usually take a decision quite fast. So there might be some issues that are like that make me take decisions that are not well, or let's say in marketing terms, let's say my decisions are like, if let's say product is like well marketed, I usually go for that, or let's say that kind of thing. So do you think we can avoid cognitive triggers, or let's say like avoid some like a little influence of those triggers on our decision making?
Theoretically, yes. Practically, very difficult. We have to inculcate that habit.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. Like one of a small girl I know, and she's one of my distant relatives' daughter. I was watching a serial with her, and it was a kids serial, so we were having fun. And then some ad came up, and out of curiosity, I said that, "Do you like that?" And she said, "Yes, actually, I used to like it more, but now I like it less." I said, "Why? What happened?" And she said that because there are too many ads coming up, so there must be something wrong with it.
Okay.
So that is a girl who I think is that being educated very well.
Yeah, that's like a very good perspective of like if you like even a young person, let's say even like an adult person, let's say 18, 20 years old, if they are like able to detect that and like put it that thing, like those kind of things in that way, so I think they have like evolved, or let's say they have learned on a very good level actually. educated on a very good level.
Because the fact that there is so much ad coming up for that, it only, like, what you will promote, you will not promote something which can run on its own feet. You will promote only those things which cannot stand up by themselves and not run by themselves.
Yeah.
And if the promotion is more than, let's say, what is generally expected, then there is something definitely wrong.
That's like a very nice way to put it. Yeah, for sure. So let's go back to cognitive triggers itself. Let's say they are like do you have any subcategories in those kind of triggers? Like, are there like any categories? Like, I'm not like much aware of exactly how it works. So can you like give it like a more broader perspective towards like what cognitive triggers do and how do they influence people?
No, unfortunately, I don't have much information on that.
Okay,
I
like
have some ideas on the, let's say, biases, cognitive biases that we have in decision making, and the list is very long. And
yeah,
also,
absolutely. Yeah, there are like thousands of triggers.
Yeah. So there are like 60-65 very known ones, which are very clear cut, and they are useful it is useful to learn about them and keep them in mind, especially because they are useful in interpreting and understanding the intention of things which are presented to you.
Yeah, because I come from a marketing background, so I keep learning about those kind of triggers to like use those kind of triggers in like making like not helping, like I would say like dictating people into making certain decisions. Example, it can be reviews, it can be like basically social proof, like those kind of things. So I keep trying to incorporate those kind of triggers into my campaigns for my company and everything, to keep trying to sell my products or like basically my company's product. So I think they have helped me. And the best book I've read about them, I think it was Influenced by like the art, like Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Ledini, I think.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
I think that was my first like book that was into marketing psychology. So from that I learned like psychological triggers like reciprocity, those kind of things I learned from that actually. So it was like super
and in that also at mass level it works differently than the individual level. So 100%. The techniques to influence an individual will be very different from techniques to influence masses, and sometimes contradictory.
Sometimes so for example,
contradictory. Yeah.
Okay.
For example, if you are trying to influence a person, you can use logic, like you can use facts, logic and all that, and mostly it works.
Okay.
But if you are trying to influence a group, using logic is not going to work. It will work counterproductive.
Okay.
So then using stories, using
100%
emotions is going to work.
100%.
Like,
and this,
if it is logical, it is not going to stick.
For
just
sure.
imagine, you have seen the ad of Coca-Cola and all that. If Coca-Cola company goes and says that, hey, I'm selling you water,
black water,
which has some contaminants and used by chemicals, like introduced, I have water, then I contaminated it by adding chemical, and then I added sugar, a lot of sugar, like 15 ml gram of sugar in 100 ml water, and I'm selling it to you 4 times more than any of the ingredients that are used in that. You will never buy that.
And that too, like, so it's like a black carbonated water that's actually bad for your health, but I want you to buy it.
Yeah,
that's
how they sell it. They sell it with that,
refreshing
bottle open karta hai.
Yeah,
and then the person jumps.
Yeah,
and then they dar ke aage jeet hai. So what they are doing basically, they are looking at the other strong, and they always present capitalize on something very, very strong emotion. So whether it is the bonding, whether it is the thrill seeking, whether it is being connected, emotionally connected with your friends, and then they try to make it in the ritual.
Yeah.
So agar pizza aata hai, to Coca-Cola hona chahiye.
Yeah. I think similar ad was for the Axe body spray. If you remember Axe body spray, I think
yeah.
2 years back.
हाँ,
when you spray
body
that,
spray
it will-
लगाओ, सब
yeah.
लड़कियां दौड़ती हुई
हाँ,
जाएंगी.
yeah, girls used to follow it. Like especially a chocolate ad as well. Like it's a spray kiya. It was chocolate flavored Axe deodorant, and the guy was made in chocolate. So every girl was coming and having a bite of him. It was like hitting a bite, and the shoulder was like disappeared. So yeah, for sure, it's like
Yeah, so
in reality.
like the crux is that it is for masses to influence.
Yeah, I think
If you talk to one person in that ad language, if you talk to one person, the person will say, "यार क्या मेरे को उल्लू समझा है?" Like never. Like, am I
Yeah.
the only idiot? You know. But when it is for masses, addressed to masses, it's fun. Everybody remembers,
I think
and subconsciously they will buy it also.
yeah, I think almost 99%, 99 would maybe like a very big number. Let's say 95% of the ads can be like Surf Excel for daag achhe hain, or even Colgate. Like when a like normal actor comes up in a lab coat and says 9 out of 10 doctors recommend this. Bloody hell, like kaise chal raha hai bhai ye? So people are like, okay, doctor ne kaha hai, let's purchase a Colgate. And then for masses, obviously, is like good for it. And when you like obviously explain it to an individual कि like दाग अच्छे हैं, भाई कहकर नहीं चाहिए मेरे को दाग, मेरे को कपड़े साफ चाहिए होते हैं अपने. I don't want like dirt on it, so it's okay. So for sure, it's like part of it.
Yeah, anyway, marketing is, as we all know, marketing is the
Storytelling.
whole psychology of
Yeah. So I like that's what like
and so is religion, so is anything, like, you know, it's like that. If you look at any kind of, you know, known parable story, poetry is lie. It's a good lie, but it is lie.
Yeah.
You know, poetry is not a accurate and true representation of reality. You know, storytelling, any kind of storytelling, is not an accurate and true representation of reality.
See,
So
like,
जो masses की psychology होती है, the psychology to move masses is always based on irrational things. It cannot be based on rational. Like, based on rationality, you cannot move.
Okay, that's it. Like a very, yeah. I'll have to like go back and think about it, and like analyze it on like a very broader perspective now. So when you like talk about that, I will love to like think about it later on, like see examples from the outside and like related to that. That would be like a fun thing for me to do as well. I think for this part as well, like I remember a book that I read from Seth Godin. It was like all marketers are liars, and then in that book he was like cut the liars, and he was like storytellers. So that was his book as well. So I think
storyteller is what I would say socially accepted and socially desirable version of lying. All storytelling is lying.
It's like an acceptable version of a fraud.
Yeah. But so is poetry, so is art. Like, art is not representation of truth.
Yeah.
Art is basically not representation of reality as it is, but it is distortion of reality. And maybe and also there is another aspect which makes, you know, life more interesting and complex at the same time, is that the truth is always hidden in that only. The truth doesn't come naked. You know, it is always hidden into that garb of poetry, that garb of art, that garb of music. So that's why, you know, all the dictator type people, they are too much afraid of poets and you know, storytellers and you know, rappers. Like, biggest regime is not afraid that, okay, people have tanks and all that. They are afraid of rappers, because that goes viral. That goes
yeah, for sure, that doesn't happen. Yeah.
एक जोक से सरकार हिल जाती है.
Yeah. For sure. Like example, let's say अभी कश्मीर फाइल्स आ रखी है, so there it's like a very big political agenda over that as well. कि एक मूवी की वजह से पूरी politics change हो रही है. Let's say it is influencing a bit the country. उसमें I don't want to like go in deep into that because उसमें religion वगैरह आ जाता है. मैं और politics पे आ जाती है. So I want to like be a bit away from that, especially on a podcast. Maybe for other time.
Yeah, and in this also, like, let's say in Kashmir Files, if they only show the reality, it's not an art then.
Yeah, then
they have to exaggerate it. They have 100%. They have to distort it. They have to make it. And this is what all movies do, not only Kashmir Files.
Yeah,
This is
100%.
what all movies do. This is what movies are for. And
Yeah.
that's why they are more impactful. That's why they are more entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's why this is a legitimate thing.
Yeah, example from the movie Dangal, like the last fight of that, I don't remember the exact name of the fighter, like Babita or Geeta, like either of those. She was fighting, and in the movie, it was shown. It was like a very like end moment when she won the fight. When in reality, it was like quite simple. Like her semi-final was a lot more difficult. In the finals, it was like quite simple, and she won like decently, like easily, like fair easily.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it was like very last second when she like
but
flipped the complete process,
last time, if there is no that last time excitement, that
climax,
and then relief, you will not then rate positively that movie.
Yeah, for sure. I think it has been like a very long time that we have been recording, and I'm sure you would have some other work as well. So
I did not check. Oh, it's 1.5 hours.
Yeah, it's like over
half an hour. Wow.
It was like lovely talking with you for sure, and I have like learned so much, and I would love to like go back to this like 1.5 hour like long video, like couple of times at least, and keep learning a lot more than what I just like I'm remembering right now for sure. It has been like an amazing experience for sure.
Thank you. Where are you based, Anchit?
I'm in Delhi.
You're in Delhi?
Yeah, I like work in Noida, so I have my marketing job in Noida, but I'm in Delhi itself.
Nice. I would be living in Gurgaon sector 33 after a few months, because currently it's too hot for me there, and I stopped by Delhi for 2 days, and I could not bear the.
It's like it is just starting right here. It's like in a couple of months it will be like burning hot, like super hot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Though I used to live in Sonipat, in OP Jindal University. I used to live in the campus for I think 4 years I lived there.
Okay. Sonipat has the same weather as Delhi. It's like almost 90% of the same thing.
Yeah, it's just that in the university campus, it looks little like village and village side. It has all the facilities of the city, and it has the view of the village. So that was a little nice. Yeah.
And like when there's like a lesser traffic and like very less like noise. Actually, basically, I'm towards Faridabad actually, like Delhi, Faridabad. I'm towards Faridabad actually.
Yes. I have seen that whole area. I lived in Delhi for 6 years. I traveled from this Rajouri Garden to Faridabad, sector 18.
Okay.
Every day on motorcycle. And I did it for almost a year.
Okay, that's like a very tough ride.
It was like
50
kilometer one way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a very complicated. I used to live in Paschim Vihar, so recently I've moved towards Faridabad now. So Paschim Vihar is very close to Rajouri Garden itself. It's like
Paschim Vihar. Yes, it's very close to. I used to live in Rajouri Garden, like Tagore Garden. Yeah.
Tagore Garden. I have done my 11th and 12th from Tagore Garden. There was the Cambridge Foundation School in Tagore Garden.
Yes.
So I've done my 11th and 12th grade from that school, and like till 12th grade, 10th grade, I used to go into New Era Public School that was near Mayapuri. It's like that's in Mayapuri. It's like very close to Tagore Garden itself. So that's my schooling as well. Yeah. I would love to have you like again on my show for sure. It's like super fun to talk with you, and you're like super nice person. Like you're giving a lot of experience, like examples, analogy, and like fun examples as well. So it was like super fun for me as well.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye. Take care.
Thanks.
Nice talking with you. Bye bye.